Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Celtic Warband here, and I am finally back after a long and trying week. I was sick the entire week and had lost my voice for a couple of days, so I was really unable to get any content out to you guys whatsoever during that time. My voice isn't 100% as of right now. I'm still kind of sick, going on day number 8. So it really sucked, but I think that it's time to get back into making content for you guys, and I'm going to start with this really awesome battle that I actually played while sick. It's a 3 vs 3 in Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD, and we'll go ahead and look at the army compositions first, and then we'll get the battle underway. So I've got it on slow motion. I'll kind of keep an eye on it and see if we're going to have to pause the battle at any point, but it's about 27 minutes long, which isn't too bad for a Medieval Kingdoms battle. So I am playing as the Empire of Nicaea, and this is a very low money battle, and its rules were all tier 1 units except for 3 tier 2 units that you could bring. So we're going to see a lot of units that we really wouldn't normally see. I'm actually going to go ahead and pause it right now, just so we don't miss anything. So I've got 4 units of these Gazmoloi, or Gazmuoloi. They're a crossbow unit for the Empire of Nicaea. They're really, really low tier, but I still wanted that armor-piercing damage, especially with my opponents having tier 1 units. These crossbows are just going to rip it up. So I brought 4 units of them, and then I have 4 units of these pikemen, and it's really nice with the Empire of Nicaea. They actually have tier 1 pikes. A lot of them, it's either tier 2 or tier 3. So I've got 4 of these Conteratioi. So they're looking pretty sweet. They've got shields, but they've got like no armor whatsoever. They're wearing basically just leather padding. It's almost like something you'd go when you go to the dentist and they give you like that massive lead weight type thing. And there goes my voice. So there'll be a couple of those during the battles. But yes, and then I've got 6 units of these Scutatoi swordsmen of the early period, and for these guys, I just love their swords. I love how they're kind of curved on the end, so really drawing from kind of Eastern roots, these guys, even though it's the Eastern Roman Empire, basically. But yeah, I think I have 6 units of them. 4, 5, 6. Yes, I do. And then my general is a Varangian Guard unit, which is really, really awesome. I love how you can bring the Varangian Guard as your general, and I would guess that one of those guys is my general. Maybe this guy, I think, because he's got like this little peacock here. He's got the peacock plume, so that's my general. And then for my cavalry, I've gone with a ton of Latin cons, so really coming back to the Medieval 2 roots. And it actually they kind of look exactly like the ones that do in Medieval 2, obviously just a lot better. But yeah, I opted for shock cavalry, so I've got 4 units of them. Or 5, actually. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that about wraps up my army, so let's take a look at my ally over here on the right, playing as the Austrians, or the Duchy of Austria. So he's got a couple units of Bergamen on the flanks, early period, again. And then he's got some Landwehr as well. Or Landwehr, I guess it would be. So these are medium polearms, tier 1, but they are halberd infantry, so they should be able to tear up sworded units if they come up against them. Then he's got some Ossoldner of the early period. And I just love the different coloring here in the textures. Not all of them look the same, so that's actually pretty historically accurate, which is nice to see. Some of them fighting with axes and some of them fighting with pretty long swords. He's got some axes back here, some Marche, which sounds like a French unit. And then he's got some Trabantin, which is definitely not how you pronounce it, but I think he's got 2 units of them, and then he has 2 units of these crossbows, Armbrutschütze. And he's got more of the early period Ossoldner. Then he's got the Duke's Hairchild over here, and it would be the one with the sword, so it's definitely this guy here. So that's the leader of Austria. And then he's got all of his cav over here in the trees. So I've actually never even heard... He's got Austrian Ritter, which I've heard of, but I've never heard of this unit here. Deinschleit? Deinschleit? Anyways, interesting units. Like I said, a lot of people don't bring these because it's usually very high money battles that people tend to play on. So that's why I kind of like to do these tier 1 only battles, just to really showcase a lot more units. Anyways, looking at my final ally over on the left-hand side, he is playing as the Swiss, or the Swiss Waldstein. So he's got some pikes as well. He's got some Zagringer Schiltron Sergeants. So I think he has one on each flank, as you can see. Then he's got some Archer Militia, kind of in the front there. Then he's bringing a lot of these Kyberg Foot Knights, which are really cool. They've got some really nice coloring to them, I do have to say. So they're looking pretty nice. And then, what does he got back here? He's got some Halberdiers of Zurich, which look cool. They could bring some Halberdiers of Uri or some Halberdiers of Zurich. But yeah, just a lot of Kyberg Foot Knights. He's got some more Halberdiers over here. And then he's got some Zagringer Spear Militia. So these guys are pretty garbage, but for Spear Militia, they don't look too bad. And his general, I forgot to show you that. Sorry about that. Very colorful Kyberg Knights here. This is definitely the general over here. Looking very nice. And I believe the rest of his cav, he did have... oh yeah, it's all over on the trees. He's just got 3 more units of Kyberg Knights over there. Alright, yeah, these 3v3s take a little while to look at the army compositions, but I think it's worth it. You guys could just always fast forward to the beginning of the battle if you would like to. But yeah, we've got the Kingdom of Georgia over here as the first enemy on the tree line here. He's got some Aznari horse archers, which is they've got some pretty big lances too. So I'd imagine they got some decent charge bonus, even though they're medium bow cavalry. So he's got 2 units of them, and then the rest of his cavalry is over here. He's got some Tadzielu. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they look a little bit Crusader-like, which is really cool for the Kingdom of Georgia. Because they're going to draw mostly, you know, Eastern factions, and then the Russian factions. They're kind of right in the center, so I'd imagine that their units look very much a mix of those 2 cultures. But yeah, he's pretty much just brought a bunch of that Tadzieli unit. And then, yeah, he's got some spears over here in the trees. It's going to be hard to kind of look at all of his units, but he's got some Metskavone spearmen. And then in behind here, he's got some Kievzer swordsmen. These guys kind of look pretty cool. They definitely look like something from the Kievian Rus, for sure. But again, mostly tier 1. And then he's got some archers over here. Metsklavon archers. And that's pretty much all he's brought. I think that's pretty much it. And he's got his general riding through the front ranks over here. He's also a bow cav unit. Monaspa Guard. But I don't know which one would be the general here. I don't see anyone that stands out, but I'm sure we will see him later on. And then the middle player over here as the second enemy player, he is playing as the Kingdom of Jerusalem and Cyprus, so he's got a lot of Crusader marksmen in the front. And then he's got some Pisan Marines, which look pretty sweet. They got some really long spears. And then he's got some Crusader Armati back here. More Crusader Armati, and then for his cavalry, he's got some Fratres Militares Templi. He's got that King of Jerusalem and Cyprus over here. And there he is. Again with the voice. And then he's also got Philip II Auguste, Royal de France, which is very, very funny because the last player over here is actually the French. So bringing some sergeants over here of the early period. He's got some communal infantry kind of scattered in and around his lines. More sergeants over here. He's got some arbaletiers. What else do we got here? Some peasants. Yeah, he did bring a couple units of peasants and some peasant archers. Again, with these low money battles. Bringing some valets as well. These guys are pretty garbage as far as spears go. And then Jean de Cheval, so there's his tier 2 units kind of poking into view. And he's bringing some Chevalier, and he's got the, as he called it in the battle, the real Royal de France. Not the supposed pretender that is under the Jerusalem banner. And then he's got some Count's Household Guard as well, which is pretty sweet. So, yeah, let's go ahead and finally start this battle over here. And it's going to begin with kind of some skirmishing back and forth. I'm moving my troops into position. You can see that these peasant archers are actually trying to get in range of my crossbowmen. But we are more than happy to fire back against them. And they take some pretty heavy casualties to my crossbows. To be honest, probably shouldn't really have been wasting my ammo on them. But there wasn't really anything else to shoot at, so I just ended up opening fire on them. Oh yeah, there you go. Getting some decent kills. Their morale is pretty terrible as well, so they're definitely going to start to waver. Yeah, you can see they're already wavering, but it's to be expected. Now my ally here is kind of deploying right up next to me, which I appreciate. He's kind of matching my lines here, keeping them nice and tight. He's still got his cav hidden in the trees over there, which is good. Taking a look at my ally over here, he's actually extended his force all the way to cover this forested area. And you can see that the Kingdom of Georgia is going to start to get pretty aggressive with their bow cavalry, just firing down on the ranks of the Swiss. He's pulled back his Khyber knights so that they don't take any unnecessary casualties. But yes, this is kind of the lull before the battle, kind of just, you know, softening up our forces. We're softening up their forces, seeing where the weak spots are. But these peasant archers are really just not going to get much done. Like, they've been firing on this unit of crossbows and they haven't killed one, and they haven't killed any of my pikes either. So, not super worried about that. But if we take a look, the Kingdom of Georgia is actually deploying most of his forces into the forest here. So he's really interested in using the cover of the forest for his method of engagement. I'm sure he's planning to move his forces kind of more under cover, maybe take the Swiss off guard a little bit here. But he does have his Khyber Knights in the forest, well aware that there are some enemy forces in this forest. And they keep moving forwards to get some shots off, and then as soon as the Khyber Knights move forwards, they just turn around and flee. But yeah, we've got a nice presence of spears with the archers in behind, and it looks like he's sending some of his shock cavalry in as well to kind of tip the tides over here. Now, with that being said, it kind of leaves these two alone to their own devices. I am not going to attack Jerusalem and Cyprus, though. They are a very, very powerful faction. Even their Tier 1 units would probably be a little bit difficult for my men to deal with. I do have my pikemen, but I just felt it to be a better decision to sit back and wait. However, the Duchy of Austria over here, I was kind of looking at the French, and they're really kind of pushing hard on this flank, but they're a little bit disorganized, so... in a minute, yeah, there we go. I'm going to pull some of my Latin con over here to bolster the ranks of the Austrian cavalry force. And then at the same time over here, you can see I've got some of my cavalry that's going to go over and harass the Georgians. But I'm not going to push in there yet. All of these troops are hidden to me as of right now until I moved my cavalry close. And I was like, whoa, there's a good 2,000 men in that forest. So I'm going to wait for the Swiss to kind of engage first off. And then I'll kind of come in later to harass a little bit more. But zipping over to this side of the forest, or sorry, of the fight, the peasant archers, no surprise, are breaking there. He is trying to fire onto the French lines, but the French actually, or sorry, to the Austrian lines, my bad. But the Austrians actually, as soon as these peasant archers break, they will have a larger archery presence. In fact, he has 5 units total. So the French do have 5 units, but they only have 3 good units of crossbows. These peasant archers are pretty much on their last legs as of right now. And you can really see that the French player is scrambling. I kind of pull out my ace of spades, basically. So I pull these guys out of the forest because I'm trying to attract him to move his archers closer and his cavalry over to this end. Basically just baiting him into a trap that we can kind of surround them with these Austrian knights. But he was a little bit too smart for that. He's trying to get his lines lines in a good formation, but he's still a little bit disorganized over here. Let's go ahead and zip over to this fight. It looks like we're just about to catch some Austrians charging in here. It looks like the Georgian Tazruli, they're trying to get out of there. The Khyber Knights are really pushing forwards, though. They're not going to allow these Georgians to escape any further. And that's when a couple other units are committed to the fight over here. So the battle has basically begun. This is a little bit dangerous, though. It does favor the Kingdom of Georgia just right now because he does have all these spears so close by with the archer support. But looks like the Swiss player is reacting very quickly, sending his spear militia to kind of make sure that they don't help out in killing the Khyber Knights any faster than it needs to happen. Let's go ahead and pop that back on a play. It's going to be a little hard to see here, so we will kind of overview to see where the lines are, and then we'll jump in to take a look at some of the fighting. But yeah, you can see the general is moving into the forest over there. The Swiss are actually pushing very heavily on the flanks. I think their interest is to basically just engulf or envelop the Kingdom of Georgia in this forest. And if we look over here, the Crusader forces are just left alone. But he isn't really helping his allies at all, whereas I'm really interested in helping my allies. So I'm going to go ahead and sit here and just lend a hand on either side. We've got the Austrians moving forward their archers at this point. So they're going to get into position to really start to break apart these units of French soldiers that dare to cross this plain. They are definitely going to take some heavy losses for doing so. We've got the peasants charging forwards here. Again, we shouldn't really be firing on them. Look at that one volley, and they just break, and the other one's just about to break as well. Oh, that's just so funny to see how terrible the morale is. But he's got some other decent units, so he will eventually start to focus these communal infantry, because they are so susceptible to archery fire. But mainly the attack is going on over here. You can see that I've actually charged my my knights into these spears and broken them. But he does have some swords right in behind that's going to be able to cut down my knights very quickly. So I'm going to pull them out of that engagement. I am going to lose a lot of men. You guys know that I usually say there's no reason whatsoever for you to pull out your men, except, you know, there are one or two, I would say. And leaving my very healthy unit of cavalry in melee against 3 units of swords just isn't really in their best interest. But yeah, we've got the halberdiers of Zurich over here fighting the spears. That's a battle that they definitely will be able to win. These Georgian spears do not stand a chance against these Zurich halberdiers. But yes, the Allies' general is already dead. Over here you can see he was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. He's got the cavalry over here, and then there was just more Georgian cavalry to block off his escape. So that's really not good for the Swiss to have lost their general so quickly. However, see how I said there's a few select reasons why you should pull your cav out of an engagement, and it's because I actually got right in between his lines to start harassing his archers. But luckily the Kingdom of Georgia was well prepared. He's got some of his Tazruli over here. They're going to make quick work of my depleted knights. Yeah, this battle is just underway in the forest. Let's jump out of this forest, though, and zip across to the other side of the battle. Make sure we're not missing anything. Looks like we got some spears charging in against this cavalry unit over here. I'm not sure if he notices this, though. He's got to get... Those valets are garbage, but they will start to take down the Ritter, even though they are tier 2. But over on this side, yeah, you can see I'm just running around, really disorganizing his forces even more. Let's go ahead and go on to slow motion and see the effect of this charge on this tier 1 unit. This is a unit of sergeants of the French, and this cavalry just obliterates it. Oh, such a satisfying charge. And I think I was able to pull back with my other unit pretty much unscathed. and I'm charging into the backs of the sergeants that are fighting these spears. The only problem is now that we've got some French cav, the Count's Household Guard, going in against these marchés over here. So I don't know if this, because they sound so French, if they're like a mercenary unit and the Count's like, you know, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be having French mercenaries fighting for the Austrians, and he just, in a blind rage, charges into these units to kill them once and for all. But they've got some pretty formidable weapons. They remind me of the unit of the Kievian Rus, which name escapes me right now. I can't remember what they're called. British Axemen, that's what it is. But yeah, they've got like these massive, massive axes. You can see we've got some throwing axes even coming into battle over here. Yeah, so I've wavered and broke that unit of sergeants over here with the help of the Austrians. And now I'm just, again, kind of getting him out of formation. I'm not going to charge that communal infantry, but just to kind of get them moving. And this unit of sergeants has rallied because they've got some of the units of French cavalry helping out. But I'm going to try and surround them with my Latin con. But if we jump over to this side, you can see that we're having some major troubles over here. We've got the... Is this the King of Jerusalem? Yes, it is. So he's actually helping out his ally now. He sent some cav to pick apart some of the reserves of the Swiss. And my cavalry is still alive. They are holding on. Let's go ahead and turn this on to play. The pikes are moving forwards. This is the main reason why the Swiss are still in this fight, is from the halberds and the pikemen. They're just going to be able to hold their ground against anything that the Kingdom of Georgia sends up against them, especially Tier 1 units for sure. But for Tier 1 swords, these guys do look decently armored. But if you look in the background, we've got more of the Georgian cavalry kind of just pouring in and around the forest. So this is a really nice forest battle that we've got going on over here. Looks like the spears are starting to flank around these halberdiers, which isn't, that's not a bad positioning for them. They're still losing the current combat, though, unfortunately. And these poor Khyber Knights are just trying to contain the enemy over here. There's just so many of the Georgians. And the general is obviously over here inspiring his men as well. Let's take a look at what else is going on. I was sending some Skutatoy swordsmen over there to kind of help out, but I changed my mind at the last minute. I really realized that we were kind of losing at this position anyways, and I actually try to pull back my Latin con as well. I'm not really interested in fighting on this flank, and the Taz really do try to chase me down, but I do get out of there alive, which is good. Again, though, they're not pushing forwards with their main forces, which is good. And, yeah, we've got an all-out brawl over here. The French and the Austrians now fighting toe-to-toe. But this communal infantry is kind of just surrounded on most of their sides. So they are trying to hold their best. But they're starting to waver from just being attacked just everywhere and anywhere. Fight on, Austrians. Slay this communal infantry. And let's kind of zoom out and put on the unit cards again. Yeah, so they really turned the tide over here as well, breaking some of the Jean de Chavel. We've got some of the units coming in, especially the general as well. I'm going to be really sneaky and a little bit cutthroat here and move my crossbows into range, my Gazmolioi. But he manages to kind of get out of there just in time, out of my range, and he's going to get a nice charge into a lot of these archers over here. Yep, so he's charged in and effectively stopped all three of these units from firing, but we've got a unit of Landwehr that's coming in. So the general's going to try and get out of there. Oh, look at all those throwing axes just ripping apart the French king, though. But we see a lot of wavering on both sides, but the Austrian cav is just running amok over here, ripping apart the French lines. The balance of power is still pretty much dead even, though, because we've lost on the left flank, but we're winning on the right flank. My cavalry is still alive, but they are just about to waver, and there goes the French general. He is broken off the battlefield. Thanks to the Landwehr right there, actually really tearing apart the enemy cavalry. And just like that, a lot of the French are going to start to break. So now that's pushed it pretty much... I'd say it's even, but maybe just a hair in favor of us. But this is still very, very close. We've got the Crusaders over here. He realizes that the French have been all but destroyed, and so he's actually redeploying his forces closer to the Kingdom of Georgia, which is a very smart decision. But we've actually still got some brave Swiss soldiers over here fighting and surrounded. And there we go. Looks like they're all cheering now. But yeah, they were quite successful in this forest, I would say. A lot of their units are pretty depleted. You can take a look at their spears and swords, you know, down to half health. But he has a lot of ammo and his archers still left. But yeah, this is a bloody forest battle, that is for sure. Just bodies lying everywhere. Let's see if we can get a nice shot here of them kind of running up the slopes. Maybe get an end zoom in there. That looks pretty sweet. So the Georgians are marching victoriously out of the forest to join their brothers in arms, the Crusaders, on the hilltop for their final stand. So it's basically gone down from a 3v3 to a 2v2. So now I'm trying to redeploy to block out any chance that the Georgians would try to surround us. So I'm redeploying my forces. I know that I'm getting fired upon by these Crusader marksmen, but again, they're tier 1s. They're not really that good. And then over here, you can see that the French, they've still got a decent-sized army, and they've got some good cavalry left as well. They've got some of their Landwehr. What's the man count here? So we started off with 7,700 men. We're down to 4,400. And they started at 7,400 men. They're down to 3,400. So they've lost 4,000 men. And we've lost just about 3,000 men. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I am bringing out the content, but I didn't say I was better. But yeah, luckily my pikemen are going to be key in this battle. They're still very, very healthy. Now, what do the Crusaders have? Like, they've got these Pisan Marines, but toe-to-toe, they're not going to be able to do much against my pikes. And really, neither will these Crusader Armadi. But against my swords, the Skutatoy swords, the Crusader Armadi would probably be able to best them. But luckily for the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the Kingdom of Georgia is back, and he is pretty banged up. I will say that, but luckily he just has these 4 units of very healthy archers, and he's got a lot of cavalry as well. He's also got a unit over here of Tazruli, kind of just sitting in the main, in the corner of the forest there. But yeah, you can see that I've just pulled all of my Skutatoy swords here. And I'm basically just going to fan through this forest and search for anyone else that could remain. And I've got a unit of Latincon over here in the corner as well. So it's basically like a really wide sweep. I'm going to be really searching this forest to make sure there's nothing in behind us. And I was at this point, I was like 90% sure that nothing got behind us. And it looks like I was correct. So that is good. Looks like they're kind of forming up like this little it's not really a new box. He's kind of just forming like this this line with kind of pulled in ends, and the reason for that is just because the French are really pushing on the flanks over here. You can see that a lot of the healthy cavalry is being pushed over to deal with the Austrians on this flank. I think I keep calling them the French. I apologize. They are the Austrians. But luckily the Austrians still have some cav left. And the Duke's Hairchild is still pretty healthy. Actually, he's full health, and he's triple silver chevrons on him. So that's going to be really helpful against this tier 1 cavalry. And we got the Monospa Guard as well. Let's see if we can see him now, because we weren't able to see him before. Now that he's kind of spread out. Oh, that must be him there with the golden cuirass. Yeah, so he's even got some blood on his face, some Swiss blood. Yeah, this cavalry looks awesome. But let's take a look at what's going on over here. So I moved forward to my pikes. They are starting to get fired upon, though. But my crossbows are kind of returning fire. And I'm focusing the Crusader Armati that are in the back lines. And the Crusaders are starting to pull back their archers. They are getting some good hits, though, on my pikemen, which I didn't really like. But I didn't want to run them into melee at this point. Yeah, there he goes, pulling back the rest of his Crusader marksmen. And if we look at the forest as well, I've completely fanned the entire forest. I've driven the rest of the Georgians out of the forest, which is great. And the Crusaders are actually pulling back. They're pulling back their spears as well. He's trying to get a better position so that he isn't completely overwhelmed by the Austrians on this one side. I've got like this stupid tickle in the back of my throat. I hope it's gone now. But yeah, look at this unit of pikes in the center. So he's doing really well by just kind of kiting me. So he's pulling back, turning around, firing, and then pulling back again, which is actually a valid strategy when you're trying to deal with pikemen. Even tier 1 pikemen like this can rack up hundreds of kills, so you never want to underestimate them for sure. But yeah, I've lost 60 men out of this unit to these archers. The only good thing is that as he keeps retreating like this, he's kind of pulling himself tighter and tighter and tighter, and my crossbows are just starting to open fire. And I'm going for Philip II, the fake French king over here. I'm firing at him because, as you can see, he's facing the wrong way, and cavalry is super important. So I want to eliminate all that cavalry if possible. But looks like we got one of the units over here was caught up in melee. So we got some Crusader Armati fighting what's left of the Khyber Foot Knights and one of my Skutatoy swordsmen. But I'm going to focus over here as well. You can see that the Kingdom of Georgia, the Georgian player, he really wants to flank around me with his cav, and I know that he does. So he's wasting his ammo, like just firing his ammo onto my swords. But well, actually, it looks like he's focusing my Latin cons so that he can get around me. And he does actually break them.
Men are broken and running for their lives.
And it looks like he's about to break my swords here with this very depleted unit as well. Actually, this is the Royale de France. So even just a small unit like that was causing me some real trouble. Let's take a look over here at this scrap. So we've got a nice cluster of men here. But the Austrians are really pushing very heavily on this side. Oops. And just hoping to overwhelm the men. Looks like we have some of the Austrian cavalry flanking around, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, look at that, just getting right into the archers, and look at that. Oh, yes, cut down by either my crossbows that were firing or his archers, because he's got a lot of archers left as well. So cut down the Kingdom of Jerusalem's general. Over here as well, the Kingdom of Georgia got a really nice double charge on my sword. So basically what happened over here, I'm sorry I missed it, but I had these swords spread out, and he actually snuck one of his Tazruli in behind my forces, and then he had another cav unit in front, and he charged the front with one cavalry unit, and then charged in behind with his other cavalry unit. You can see that he's going to do the exact same thing here. My poor Skoitatoi swordsmen are about to all be slaughtered over here, unfortunately. But he's really breaking my flank. And no, my mistake. He's actually, I think he's pulling his cavalry to charge for this unit of swords that I was trying to reinforce with. Yeah, so he's getting some good charges off on my men there. He's completely obliterated this flank. If we turn back on the unit cards, yeah, you can see that most of my swords are pretty much gone at this point. But at the same time, the balance of power is really tipped into our favor, and that is all thanks to the Austrians really just bulldozing their way through a lot of the Crusader Armati. You can see that the general is getting his sword wet in amongst all of these archers as well. And my pikemen are pushing pretty hard. And the crossbows as well. If I kind of zoom down, these pikemen are trying to hold this unit here, and then my crossbows are just going to light them up from behind. Yeah, there we go. Let's get the shrubbery out of the way, though, so we can see what's going on. Some more throwing axes. Yeah, but there go the crossbow bolts just firing in. You can see, it looks like the Crusader marksmen are still trying to break our forces, but they're just under such fire. And they've got the Austrian knights in behind to worry about as well. But I think that he broke my unit of pikemen here, finally. Yes, he did. And we've got the Georgian general over here as well, charging forwards. But I'm not sure where the Austrian general went, but I think he was killed as well. So just my general and the Georgian general are alive. My general I totally forgot to actually even bring into battle, which is really sad. I forgot my poor Varangian guard. I was just so focused on my pikes that I wasn't able to get my Varangian guard into melee. But as the general is running forwards to try to get into battle, hopefully it's not too late for him to stand by his men. And then we kind of looked over into the trees, and some Georgian cavalry had snuck in behind our lines. And they were headed straight for this general. So you can see I'm really trying to redeploy here and try to face the Georgian knights. And yes, the Georgian player is doing again that classic move. He's got one in front over here, and he's got one that's going to move in behind. And here we go. Here's the charge in the forest. Oh, devastating charge against my Varangian guard. Luckily, most of them are going to be able to get back up, and then we're going to start to clean up this cavalry. Let's take a look here. I did put them in wedge formation just in time as well, so that gives them some extra charge bonus and extra melee attack. But the Georgian player is really concerned with trying to kill my general, but he just hangs on. Yep, there's the other cavalry unit in behind, trying to sandwich my general, but he fights on and he will not break, tying up two very healthy units of cavalry. Over here too, we're kind of just wrapping up the final bits of the battle. You can see that the Swiss hung on till the end. They've got their Kaiberg foot knights still in melee. down to the last 30 seconds of the battle. So this was a very, very good battle. It didn't tip into our favor until almost the very end. It was dead even the entire time. And it was really cool how we lost on the one flank in the forest, but then won on the other flank. So a 3v2 became a 2v2, and then there was just a great push as we moved our pikes forwards, forcing back the Crusaders, and then claiming victory on this day. So a Pyrrhic victory. Let's end the replay and take a look at the results. So here are the players. So Hunted as the Swiss, Dark Fox as the Austrians, Panzers as the Kingdom of Jerusalem, Hamdog as the Kingdom of Georgia, and Nikomai as the French. So looking at my forces, my pikes did okay. They kind of got shredded towards the very end. Varangian Guard didn't see melee until the very end, and they still managed to kill 64 of the enemy. And my Scudetoi swordsmen did pretty solid. My crossbow's doing excellent, and my cav doing all right. Looking at the Swiss, really good kills by their halberdiers there. The Kyberg Foot Knights, it's a mixed bag. Some doing well, some not. Archers just garbage, and his Kyberg Knights didn't really do too well, but they were surrounded pretty early on. But looking at the Duchy of Austria, he did really well. His Landwehr doing excellent. His Ossolner getting a ton of kills. His Marche, which is like a 300 gold unit, got 86 kills. That's really solid. A lot of good kills by his archers. And his cavalry, look at that, 430, 393. Excellent work there. Looking at Panzers, his Pisan Marines really suffered at the hands of my pikes. The Crusader Armati didn't really do too well. His archers did solid, though, and that cavalry unit, 231 kills, and Philip II got 137. Unfortunately, the King of Jerusalem didn't do too well. And then Hamdog with his army, his general doing excellent. His spears did okay. These swords did really solid. These two units did. These ones did not. Archers did excellent. The cavalry did excellent. And then looking at the French, obviously most of the peasant units did pretty garbage. None of his sergeants did really well. The archers didn't do really well, and one of the cav units did really well, but he needed more kills. That was the problem. By the time the Kingdom of France was destroyed, the Austrians were still just too healthy. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this battle. Thank you for being patient while I've been away sick. As you guys can tell, I'm still on the mend, but I still hope to kind of get some regular content going up starting now, basically, now that you're watching this. And I'm actually almost finished recording a tournament. So I've got a Rome 2 tournament going on. I'm going to bring out an opening video within the next day or two. And basically, it's a Rome 2 tournament where the prize is a DLC Steam copy of The Empire Divided that's coming out November 30th. So I've almost finished the second round, and we've got the final battle to do, but you're going to start seeing that being uploaded on the channel as well. I'm going to try to get back to regular uploads as far as my campaigns go with Sweden and Warhammer. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, just leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, I will see you in the next one.